How can e-commerce businesses frame SEO as a strategic investment rather than just a cost?
It starts with analyzing how much they're already making from organic search. So we're not going to cut ads, but we want to cut SEO. And obviously that's where we're stepping in to go. Old horses here. If you invested 900,000 into SEO, your ROI would be significantly more than 2.1 mil.
Welcome to DTC SEO Agency Podcast, episode 3.
Episode 3, yes, absolutely. My name is Thomas Phillips, co-founder of DTC SEO Agency. We specialize in fast-growing e-commerce brands, taking them to the next level with organic search traffic. That's what we've been doing for 18 or so years now. Absolute experts at it, if we are tooting our own horn, is what it is. But we absolutely love it. Live, breathe SEO. And today we have
Olivia, so I'm the co-founder and COO of DTC SEO Agency. So today we're going to talk about technical errors and fixes, but before we go into that, I do want to bring up a topic that we do get quite often. So we've heard from clients that when they talk to their investors and CFO, sometimes they question the ROI of SEO. So to start off with, I want to address this question. How can e-commerce businesses frame SEO as a strategic investment rather than just a cost?
Yeah, so I think it starts with analyzing how much they're already making from organic search. So the way to do that, go into Google Analytics, break it down, filter it by organic search specifically. There's a couple of things you have to click back in on and double check. Then you can then start to see what is your revenue over the past X period of time from organic search only. Once you have that baseline, you're able to then understand, okay, how much is coming in right now from organic search? And then now what is the delta? So that's really where if you hop on a call with us, then we're able to then work out the kind of keywords that you could be targeting, where you're ranked right now, where the striking distance is of exactly which keywords we're going to be focusing on, because moving from 10th to 1st is an insane jump. It's like 2 or 3% of the clicks up to 40% of the clicks. So very, very quickly, you can end up doubling, tripling, quadrupling, 10xing your traffic very, very, very quickly based off of what the site previously has. So it's really a case of understanding where you're at right now in terms of how much organic search traffic is coming in and how much revenue that is actually generating, and then where you could get to. And then once you work out those two things, you can then work out what the investment looks like. We can then look at how quickly it's going to get there, because every website is different. Every niche is different. The competition is higher or lower. The number of products that you have is more or less. The number of pages, there's so many different factors, and that's really what we can boil down on a call and start to, quantify how much return they could potentially get from your investment.
Okay. So we often get this question and concern from clients that SEO is slow. What do you have to say about that?
SEO is slow if you have a brand new website. So because you have no authority and no reputation and no trust with Google yet, why should you rank first for a big search term off the bat? You shouldn't. However, if you have an existing brand that already has decent amount of traffic, you've been running your ads for a while, you have a proven product, you've potentially done some CRO, different things like that, you most likely have reputation with Google already. And that's really the bucket of brands that we love to work with, because we can get very quick results. Like I'm talking like 30 to 90 days in some cases. And that really depends how much power and authority that site already has. And some brands, what we find is that they already have a good amount of PR, which then means that you normally have a good amount of links, which then translates into power, trust, and authority with Google already. So we're able to then jump them up from position 10 to the top 3 in a very short period of time through re-optimizing certain pages and link building to certain pages. And of course, running a technical audit, first of all.
Excellent. So basically, if what you would share with a CFO or investor is that it depends on the website, and it depends on the traffic potential. But foremost, look at where they're at today with the organic traffic and actually the revenue it generates. Because we had a case like that this week, right? And they were going to cut spend on a lot of channels because they wanted the business to become more profitable. But if they would cut SEO investments, that would have a very negative effect because they're having, 7 ROI plus on the SEO investment right now?
Yeah, so they're making around 200 grand a month right now from organic search traffic on its own, right? And their CFO is going, let's cut everything that's non-essential. So we're not going to cut ads, but we want to cut SEO. And obviously that's where we're stepping in to go, hold your horses here. Let's look at the data, right? Let's present the data, and then obviously we can run through that, which is exactly what we did. So it's a case of, they're getting around a 7x return on their investment. And we know that the Google Analytics is underreporting by literally half. So they're actually getting around 14x on their investment. And the way that you can tell that is you can look at, for example, last 90 days in Google Analytics, and you look at the overall income that Google Analytics is showing, and then you look at the same thing inside of Shopify. If those two numbers are different, you know there's a discrepancy between things, and we could quite clearly see that it was pretty much half. So obviously we're presenting both numbers, being transparent here. So it's between a 7x and a 14x, right? So they're getting 14 times their return, essentially.
And that's only when we started pushing up more and more products and collection pages among top 10, right? So our work going forward would be to push it further among top 3. So the ROI would be even higher than that compared to the investment. And I think that's also what a lot of people in e-commerce get wrong, is that, they want the quick results, so they immediately think about ads and Facebook ads, and that's the only, or Meta ads and Google ads, that's the only thing they think about. But they forget and neglect SEO, especially in e-commerce. That's what we face a lot.
Absolutely, and we hop on a lot of calls to different potential clients, and they say, but SEO is slow. And I'm like, okay, a 1 to 3 month period, is that slow? And if you then look at that compared to if you took on your first paid ads agency or a new paid ads agency as an example, they always say 30 to 90 days before we dial everything in and we get everything correct. Now, when you compare that to SEO, it's the exact same time frame. So it's like, is it slow? I don't think so. Obviously, on a brand new website, yes, it does take time. Naturally, if you started a brand new website, you started running ads to it, how long would it be before you were really, really profitable and successful? You probably need to do tons of iterations, tons of creative, trying to work out every angle, spending tons of money around all the creatives, all the ads, working out the audiences, seasoning the pixel, all of that kind of stuff. So again, swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Yeah. I also saw this video on TikTok the other day where a guy was like, I spent this much or generated this much revenue with TikTok ads.
Yeah.
But then it's also how much did it cost for him? How much spend did it take to generate that revenue? Yeah. And if you were given the same spend, the same investment in SEO, you could boost a lot.
Yeah, so it was around, I think it was a 9-month period. They'd invested around 900,000 into TikTok ads, and that had produced 2.1 mil or something, right? So it's over 9 months, you spent 900K and it produced 2.1. Okay, well that's great on paper, but if you invested 900,000 into SEO, your ROI would be significantly more than 2.1 mil. That's absolutely insane. But no one puts that kind of budget towards SEO unless you're already seeing that you're getting a massive return from it. So I think that's, and by the way, 900K is way over. You need nowhere near 900K to absolutely dominate on Google compared to your competition. unless you're in some crazy competitive niche, like Ozempic as an example, right?
Yeah, so it's basically down to the ROI. So the ROI for SEO can be massively higher than for ads.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because you're making the full slice on it, essentially. Like each transaction that is made, you're making the full amount, right? It's not that you're making 30% on that transaction because your ad costs are so high per sale. So let's say your SEO was $5,000 a month, right? And that's split across $5,000 across the entire month. Yeah. Now it doesn't go up when you make a sale. The cost stays exactly the same. So you can continue to make more and more and more sales as SEO becomes more and more powerful, more reliable, and you get a lot more traffic. But then your costs are still down here. So your profit margin is freaking insane in that sweet spot, which is absolutely ideal. And that's what we want to get to as fast as possible and then hold you there for as long as possible.
And also, whilst you invest in SEO, you have the competitors running all the ads, right? All the paid ads. So basically, they're also building up this demand for the products in this space. And then you just take the clients when they search for it. Because personally, I don't always remember which brand it was I saw an ad of. And then I just search for the product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And if there's a lot of brands that are not branding their ads very well, which we see a lot, then people are literally going to search for that particular product, plus maybe reviews on the end, or maybe literally just that product or a variation of or whatever. And then that's where you can then scoop up all those sales from them paying for the click, paying for to show it to the initial person, scaling their ads, and you're just scooping up all the high converting sales at that point, which is ideal.
All right, so enough about the ROI of SEO. We're going to go into more of the technical aspects of things.
Yes.
So from an SEO perspective, why is addressing technical errors critical for maintaining and growing your organic traffic?
Yes, so it is absolutely critical. Let's use an analogy here. Let's say, for example, you had a puncture on your car, right? And you were trying to be in a race. Now you're going to go significantly slower, and eventually you might even have to drop out of the race. You might go for a period of time, and then you're going to drop out, because the tire is going to fly off. It's going to last for a period of time before then there's a major issue. And I think if you view the technical aspect of a e-commerce store or a website in a similar way, if there is something that is dragging the site down, you need to fix that so that you can be back in the race. And I think that's probably a good way of looking at it. Like, there are a bunch of seemingly small issues that can mount up into becoming a major issue that can massively drag your rankings down, your search positions down, because Google's just like, your website's too difficult to crawl, or there's a major issue, or I can't access part of the website, or I just now don't trust it. You've done something to make me not trust it anymore. So then it goes down. It pushes you down naturally. So it's so incredibly important to address early on, which is why that is literally the first thing that we do on any client's website. Fix the technical issues.
And usually there are like thousands of issues.
There's thousands, because you can't see them on the front end, and that's really the thing.
Yeah. And there's a specific case that we also face quite often. So why do redesigns or theme updates often lead to a drop in traffic?
Yeah, so theme updates, redesigns, and a change of platform, I think, is another one as well. Usually results in a drop of traffic if it's not done in the correct way. And one of the main reasons is that if there are major URL changes, which is one of the big ones, especially platform to platform. Let's say you've gone from BigCommerce over to Shopify, right? The URL structure in terms of /products or /collections or whatever is normally different to another platform. So if your previous URLs had just gone to myproduct.com/my really cool product, but now on Shopify it goes myproduct.com/products/my really cool product, and Google goes to the old link, if you don't redirect that in the correct way, using a 301 redirect across the entire site and map everything out beforehand, it can then result in a 404. So Google goes to that page and then it hits a brick wall. Sorry, this page doesn't exist on my new Shopify store anymore. Big freaking issue. And what we have is we have a bunch of clients that come over to us that then go, oh, 6 months ago we had loads of traffic, we were making tons of sales, and now we're not profitable. What the hell is going on? And you look at their organic traffic and it's just gone, oh, and we're like, what happened on this date? Oh, we changed over from BigCommerce to Shopify. Okay, and who did that? Oh, it was our developer, he knew SEO. And then you look at it and you're like, okay, well, he didn't know SEO well enough to know basics like that, to do a full redirect of every single page and map everything over. So my recommendation for that is, if you are going to change, like a big theme change, not necessarily theme, but if you're going to change platforms or you're going to change anything really, really, really big, is to map everything out of exactly what's going to happen. So old URLs, and then what are the new URLs going to be, and set up a redirect for each. That's just absolute best practice from that point of view. With theme changes, this is what we see a lot of, is that it changes the SEO titles. So that is a huge thing, because if you have an SEO title that's been written in a very, very specific way and it's ranking extremely well, and then the theme goes in and adds something in, or it removes out the SEO title altogether, and now Google's just picking up something random on the page, Google's then like, what the f is this page about? We had one the other day where it literally that exact same thing happened. It had removed the SEO title out of the theme and it just said American Express on every page. And we're like, well, this is one reason why you're not ranking. Again, a technical SEO issue, seemingly small, not really something you can spot from browsing the website necessarily, unless you know what to look for. So small things like that can have a huge freaking impact from that point of view.
And in the best scenarios, we have clients that are doing theme updates when they're working with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that way they do a theme update, and then when they've done that, they let us know, we do another audit, and then we can catch any errors early on. So we had that the other day as well, where they added an image instead of a title, right? So
yes. Yeah, so with a collection page, what they've done is they've thought, this image at the top looks great. We'll just remove the H1 title and we'll just stick an image there. Awesome. I like the thinking, but when it comes to SEO, very, very bad, because the H1 title on the page is one of the most important elements from an SEO perspective. So if you now don't have that, Google's like, oh, I'm a little bit unsure what this page is now about. You had it there before, now you don't have it. Again, is it one of those things where the algorithm doesn't necessarily trust your site so much? Yes, potentially. It's just not a great signal by any means. So we caught that early on as they made the theme change. And that way we're able to work with the developers at the same time to also educate them, because there's a lot of information that the developers don't know about in terms of technical SEO, which I think is very, very important. Any developers out there, if you're watching, please learn technical SEO at the same time. Like, it's going to save your ass. In 6 months' time, if the client comes back and says, hey, you deleted all of this whole section of the site, why'd you do that? You know, you can save your ass with it.
yeah, and to that point, I think
less work for us in the long run.
both designers and developers needs to understand like fundamentals of SEO, like what are title tags, what titles should you have, H1, H2, because we also see some redesigns that has multiple H1s on their website, and then it's like that's also an issue. So
Yes.
with all of these decisions someone else is doing that's not aware about SEO, that causes massive issues and errors across your website.
Yeah, Duplicate H1 tags, that was a big one that we've just dealt with this morning with the new theme update. What else was there? Removal of content, another big one. Let's say you're transitioning over to a new theme and then you're removing the content that has been added on certain pages. Again, huge potential issue, especially if that is site-wide.
Yeah. So if you're going to do a big theme update and you have an existing site that does very well in SEO, ensure that you contact some experts to also guide you through it. Because you don't want to have all these errors. You don't want to lose out on customers and traffic and suddenly have a drop because you did a full redesign.
Absolutely. Yeah, and another one as well is changing the actual domain name. Now, it's 50-50 if this is going to go well or not in terms of a smooth transition inside of Shopify. Usually it works absolutely fine. Sometimes there are major issues that flag up from the actual domain registrar level. So that's really where you need an expert to be on hand. Sometimes it might take 5 minutes, fantastic, awesome. Sometimes it takes a hell of a lot longer because of how things have previously been set up or networked together from that point of view. So that's another thing. If you want to change domain names in its entirety, that has to be done in a very specific way so that all the old URLs map into the new domain correctly. Super important.
And I think also that's something that some e-commerce owners don't think of. They just want to do a rebrand, rename their whole website, and just that's very cool, but they forget about the technicalities of it from an SEO perspective. So again, contact us and we'll definitely help you out with that.
Well, even from an ad perspective. So let's say you had a really, really good ad. Like we actually had this on one of our brands before. Really, really good ad. We didn't want to go in and change the URL because then potentially it's going to remove all of the social proof that was, in the thousands. And we then changed the full URL of the website. So if your website doesn't transition across and have a proper redirect and map all of the URLs, you could be sending traffic to a page that just results in a 404. So again, there's so many benefits to setting it up in the right way. Yeah. I think just another point on that is that I've seen some clients want to then go, we have a .com version of the website. We'll set up a brand new .co.uk because now we want to move into the UK, and we'll just duplicate the entire website. And they wonder, why is the UK site not ranking very well? Well, it's because it's a straight duplicate. So Google can literally see, okay, this is a duplicate, this is the original site. What on earth are they trying to do here? We're not going to rank you high for any of these search terms because it's a duplicate. Like, are you trying to scam the other one? We don't know if it's the same thing. So what you need to do in that instance is always have unique content on each site. And that is especially true for international SEO. So not just duplicating everything across and having it exactly the same as it is. 100% you can translate it. If it's another language, it is then seen as a different piece of content, different entity in that sense. But if it's a Canada, UK, US, Australia, and it's all the same content, and there's nothing that's different about it, that's then when Google's like, it's kind of very similar here, what's going on. So
excellent. And then going into more in depth into errors, what are some of the most common technical SEO errors you encounter during like a website audit?
404s is one of the biggest ones. Essentially, like, this page no longer exists. And this happens a lot on fashion brands or brands where their products go out of stock relatively quickly. And this can become a huge issue. And this is what we've seen a lot with some of our clients, is that they're ranking very, very well for certain products, but then they run out of stock and Shopify just goes, boom, all right, we're just going to 404 that page. So it now just sends a signal to Google that this no longer exists. And what's going to happen in the algorithm, right? It's like if you had an Instagram page that was doing really, really well and you just deleted it. What's going to happen? It's not going to show up anywhere now. So the exact same thing happens. It just drops like a stone. inside of Google. So naturally then you're going to lose a bunch of traffic, people no longer come into the store and everything like that. So 404s is one of the biggest ones, and the main way of fixing a 404 error is to go to the root cause, right? So let's say, for example, you have a blog post and that's linking to a product that you've now completely removed and you don't want to bring back. When Google crawls that blog post and sees the connection to that other product that no longer exists, it's then flagging a 404 error. This page no longer exists. So you're sending Google somewhere where it can't get to, which is a negative signal, essentially. So instead of setting up a redirect, as in, okay, well that page is now dead, let's redirect it to this page that's alive, you need to fix the root issue, which is on that blog post. So it's very simple. Go to the blog post, edit the URL and change it to something that is live and ideally is going to always be live, an evergreen URL. That way you're then not patching it by creating a 301 redirect, but then you're fixing the root cause of that error. And we have a spreadsheet of like 30 different errors that seem to pop up on a whole bunch of different client sites. It's always different with exactly how to fix them and how our team then goes in and fixes them and how many errors there are, what pages they're on, all of that good stuff. So
yeah, and
there's a lot to it.
Of course, multiple ways to fix a problem, but there is a best way to do it, best practice as an SEO. And I think, as you said there, with just patching it and doing a 301, that's a quick and dirty fix. That's actually not fixing the core. So it's very important to understand how you fixed all these errors and issues. Because we've also had that where we've had clients that have developers and we give them the errors that we found. And they're like, well, our in-house team can handle it. Then when we actually see an example of a few fixes they've done is not done in the right way.
No.
So a regular developer might not be well versed in how to fix the SEO issues in the right way.
Correct. And we end up having to create a bunch of SOP videos because they don't want our developer to go in and do it because they have someone in-house. So it becomes a little bit complex, but we work around it. And the main thing is that we fix the issues so that they don't come up again.
And I do want to circle back to that in-stock / out-of-stock issue that a lot of like fashion brands face, or people that have a stock that then goes out of stock. So there are quick fixes you can do. We've seen apps that sort this out, where basically you create like a form or something that, okay, this says this is out of stock. Do you want to sign up to a waiting list until it's back in stock? Stuff like that you can implement today if you have such a brand that you have stock that then disappears. So you don't face these 404 issues.
Yeah, that is our recommendation. We have a case study on this on the website as well, in terms of fashion brands and how to handle products going out of stock so that Google doesn't then see that as a dead page, essentially. And as you said, using like a wish list app or remind me when it's back in stock app, that way you're able to have the page still live. It says it's out of stock, but it has the enter your email address and will alert you when it comes back into stock. That way you're able to then build up an email list of people who've literally raised their hand and said, hey, I want this product. Where is it? When's it going to come back in stock? And then when you email those people, when it is back in stock, the conversion rate is very, very high because they already said that they want it, which is absolutely awesome. So you're able to build up an email list. You can retain SEO traffic. You then understand which products people actually want again and they want to buy. And then because the traffic is coming in, they might then go into the rest of the website and still buy something else, or they might prefer a newer product that's still there. So there's so many advantages of setting that up. Yeah, definitely recommend that. Go to dtcseoagency.com/case-studies and it should come up, or just click case studies at the top.
Excellent. So the biggest issue that we come across is the 404 error, because that is really
One of the 30.
Yeah, that's really limiting your growth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for any e-commerce owner listening right now, what are some simple actions they can take today to check if their website has any underlying technical issues?
Yeah, I would say probably the easiest way is literally to get a Ahrefs.com. I think you can get a $7 7-day trial, something like that. Go to site audit, type in all your information, and then get it to crawl the entire site. That way it's then going to list out all the major errors that come up, and that should cover most of what Shopify normally has that pops up. There are a few errors that our developer always goes in and fixes that don't come up inside of Ahrefs. For example, when you go to a collection page as default with most themes, and you hover over that product or you click on the URL, it will add in collections and the collection name inside of the URL. And it makes the URL very, very long. So it'd be yourwebsite.com/collections/collection name/products/your product. But the issue with that is that is not actually the URL that gets indexed in Google. And if Google's going into your site and crawling it, and then it's coming across these URLs that don't redirect, but they're canonicalized to the original URL, it's then, again, hitting some kind of weird roadblock. It then has to read the code. It then has to follow the link and go, oh, okay, actually, that was the right page, not this one. No idea why these Shopify themes do that. That is one of the first things that we do and correct the product URLs, because they're the ones that are actually indexed, which then gives those URLs a lot more power. So that is one of the secret sauce things that our dev goes in and does. And you can definitely see an uplift in product rankings just from that.
And it's important to mention why that is then causing this issue as well, is because Google wants it to be as easy to crawl as possible. So if it then creates this weird loop, like it goes into collection, product, and then collection, like it loops around, that is then gonna definitely make Google judge your website and the product page and be like, I don't really like it.
Yeah, you're costing Google more in terms of server and power, and obviously cost, to go through and crawl your website. So if it has to spend more, essentially, going through your website, more effort, it's less likely to come back, it's less likely to crawl your site in the future, therefore it's gonna mark you down slightly, essentially. So what we want is to create the smoothest, quickest possible experience for the Google bot and any kind of AI bot, because they're all based off of the same kind of spider, comes into your site, checks everything, follows all the links, looks at everything. We want to make it as easy as possible, which is why, from an AI point of view, again, also extremely important to have a very easy to crawl website that's super, super fast. Another big one actually from technical SEO point of view is image sizes. Holy shit. Some people love to take a picture on a DSLR, edit it a bit, and just upload it straight to the site. Yeah, it's 10,000 by 10,000 pixels in size. That'll do. That won't do. Imagine you're on 4G on your mobile phone and you're sat there for ages waiting for the image to load. Not a great user experience. People are less likely to buy. Your conversion rate's going to go down. And Google has to do exactly the same thing. It's freaking loading up. Okay, I'm trying to load everything on the page. This is taking forever. What the hell is going on? Fix that, and you'll fix a whole bunch of other things.
So it damages the user experience again, which is what Google algorithm is all about. So if it's bad for the user experience, it loads slowly because you have all these massive images that are very heavy for your page, then it's not going to perform as well.
Yeah, well, another big point of the algorithm is the on-site metrics. So if someone searches something on Google, they go to a page, and as a user, it takes ages to load, right? What am I going to do? If it takes over a couple of seconds, I'm going to click back, go back to Google, and click on the next one down. Now that sends a negative signal. Google can then pick up on that and goes, well, someone's only spent 3 seconds on that page and gone back. If that is a repetitive thing that happens, they are going to push the ranks down for that particular page. So there's so many things that benefit everything else that also then comes back to SEO. So fixing things like that is going to help user experience, which also helps your ranks, but then it also helps users flow through the website, load up very quickly, and then you'll get a higher conversion rate. So everything increases from doing these small things.
And what's the website called where someone can go in and check the load speed on their pages?
Yeah, so if you literally just type in Google page speed or page speed test, there's a whole bunch of different ones. So you have GT metrics is one of my favorites because it breaks things down. You have I think it's webtest.org. You need to go and double check. That one's cool because it tests 3 different times in the same test. So then you're able to get like an overall average. Like in science back at school, you have to do 3 tests and then you take the average, which is cool. So sometimes you do a test and there might be like a little blip in the server and all of a sudden it's then spiking the load time as an example. So yeah, the Google one, just literally Google page speed, Google page speed test, that kind of thing, it will come up. GT metrics are one of my favorites. Pingdom, not so much, and the webtester.org, I think it's something like that.
And again, we see a lot of clients in the e-commerce space having issues with image size. And what we recommend is 200 to 400 kilobytes. That's the ideal size. Anything beyond that, which we've seen a lot of, they should definitely reduce the weight on.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're not talking about pixels here. I think there's also some people that don't really understand the difference. It's not about pixels. Yeah, it's about reducing the weight.
Yeah, well, it is about pixels and it is about the weight, essentially, because if you have a 10,000 pixel image, naturally it is going to be heavier in terms of weight, right? Which is difficult to kind of get across. the kilobytes and the megabytes are going to be heavier, which is, it's difficult to think about, but we make a video, we have an SOP for our clients where they have a good portion of their images are way oversized from those different aspects, and we teach them how to size them down and how to do all that correctly.
Some clients do say they're like, oh, it's 400 by 400 pixels, it's all good, but they don't check the weight, and that's what I'm getting to.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Of course, it's about pixels, but it's also just not about the pixels.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if the image is saved as a PNG and it is 400 by 400 pixels, the actual weight of it could be in the megabytes.
Yeah.
But simple changes like what we recommend, exporting images as WebP, like drastically reduces the size of the image while still retaining the quality and having a high count of pixels as well as. So you, especially for like fashion websites where you want to zoom in on the product and go, well, what is that dress? What does that kind of have on the edge of it? Let me see in more detail. That's incredibly important for the user experience. So it's kind of a fine line, a balancing act between pixel size and overall weight.
Yeah.
So that's what we built an SOP around for that.
Excellent. So how often should an e-commerce store conduct an SEO audit?
Monthly. So at the agency, that is one of the things that we do. We rerun our technical audit every single month. Reason being is that it's amazing how many new errors pop up, because you have some developers working on the site, you have some team members working on the site, you might be working on the site, and a lot of different things might happen within that period of time. There might be products that suddenly go out of stock that you might not have realized. You might have updated an app and now it's removed all the content on all of your actual pages, which again, we've also seen. You know, there's so many different things that can pop up and that can happen, especially when you're installing a new app and then their app developer needs to go in and change something, but they haven't told the other development team. They might have now removed something that now has a negative effect somewhere else. Like, we're able to rerun the audit, which checks every single page and all the elements on the site, and then really work out, okay, are there any new issues, warnings, errors that have come up? And if there is, we need to fix them now before the tire comes off, like I said before, and now you're out of the race.
Yeah. And we've also, for instance, with an app example, we have a client that had an app about social, so they have a social section. That is then linking to different products that people have bought, and those product goes out of stock. So that is like an app, for instance, that they've implemented that they haven't considered might cause this kind of 404 error, because it links to old products from across the website.
Yeah, and when that element is on hundreds of product and collection pages, it then springs up hundreds of 404 errors that Google's bot is following and then hitting a brick wall on. But then the other side of it is customers. Customers who are clicking, they go, "Ooh, I love the look of that Instagram post." Click, oh, 404. Yeah. That's not great brand. It's not, there's not a lot of confidence that's built with something like that. So the quicker we can pick up on those things, the better.
And is all these technical fixes something that an e-commerce store can do in-house, or should they go to an agency to do it?
I think it really depends. If you have a technical SEO who is actually properly skilled in-house, then by all means, you can do that in-house. If they are unsure about things, get an expert opinion. Don't go in and just try and butcher stuff and hope that it works, because there's always a knock-on effect that can happen on the algorithm. And the thing is, Google's algorithm is constantly being updated. Now it's multiple times per year with different core updates and other updates that are coming in. So it's so important to keep on top of what is going on and what is then being affected by changes that you're doing, right? So that is one of the first things that we do, is we run a full technical audit on any client's website. We pick up on anything that is an issue and we fix it right away.
And what is then the potential cost of ignoring technical issues, and how does it affect the bottom line?
The cost of ignoring technical issues is absolutely huge, right? Let's say, for example, you're ranking first for a whole bunch of different keywords. Great, you're making 100 grand a month, all good, right? Now, all of a sudden, you have a big technical issue on your site and it's dragging your site down. Okay, now if you go from first to fifth, right, huge drop in rankings. You're now at 5%, 5 or 6% click-through rate instead of 40%. So your traffic goes down a significant amount, and that can be site-wide depending on what the actual issue is. So if your site is slowly being dragged down and every single month your bottom line is being squeezed more and more and more, it's going down every single month, then that is going to have a significant impact in your profits, especially because SEO is so profitable once your traffic is high and your costs are still stay exactly the same. So it's incredibly important that we fix those things as soon as they come up and don't leave them to linger, which is exactly we had a whole phone call conversation with a client with hundreds of thousands of pages on their website today about these exact things. There's been an error, an issue on the site that has been reoccurring, that hasn't been fixed. They've been kicking the can down the road and it hasn't ever really been addressed fully. And now there's been a compound of different major technical issues on the site that is now seemingly starting to drag the site down very slowly, but because there are so much traffic, they're seeing a big difference. So we got to fix it.
And also to add to that, and also to the initial financial discussion, is that the click-through rate is super high, you know, when you're ranking number one, but also overall SEO has a very high conversion rate, which makes it such a profitable traffic source, because people then searching for your product and they're ready to buy, usually depending on the keywords you're ranking for, versus ad where it's pushed in their face. So that is important to consider. So when you're ranking number one, you have a high click-through rate and you have a high conversion rate, then that is a gold mine for you. So you want to maintain that traffic source and ensure that you don't mess it up with some technical on-site things that you haven't done properly.
Absolutely. Yep. Totally agree.
And just to go into a little bit of AI, because that's such a trending topic. So with these new search technologies like AI, search GPT, etc., how does the technical SEO best practices evolve to keep up with these changes? Like, how does it impact the whole search GPT?
Yeah, so if your website is not easily crawlable, right, by the different spiders and the different bots that these companies are using, and it hits a brick wall, well then it can't necessarily go in and answer the question that the user is asking because it can't properly access the site, right? So it's incredibly important that the site loads super quick. There's as little code as possible. There's no like code bloat. You know, gone are the days where you have all your CSS at the top of the site and you know, a bot has to crawl through all of that code before it gets to the content, everything like that. It's just like making things as efficient as possible and as easy as possible for the user and for all of the different spiders that are cropping up from all the different tools and Google, obviously.
So you need to design the website for both, like the search algorithm and the user, and make it as informative as possible with all the words you're using. So not going overly, you know, because we've seen that as well. Some areas are about stuff being too wordy, too long as well, like titles and stuff. So it's important to have a nice balance for search engines and for the users.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if an e-commerce store owner suspects their site might have technical issues, but they don't know where to start, what would you recommend them to do?
Yeah, one or two things really. Either, again, like I said, go to Ahrefs, sign up for a 7-day, $7 trial or whatever it is, and run it through the site audit and just look up what on earth is going on, right? If you don't know or you don't understand or you don't know how to read the data, then that's where we can then step in and do a proper audit, dive in from a professional point of view and really understand what on earth is going on and what other things outside of just that audit might be affecting that. So as an example, the whole disavow thing, I think we spoke about this last week, where obviously the client didn't bring this up because they didn't necessarily know or understand about it, but the client that we took on, their rankings had been dropping for a good 6 months or so. They've been on a steady decline. And when we started to dive into the site more and more, it was then becoming apparent that there was a whole bunch of different technical issues, but that wasn't necessarily the reason why they had been dropping. That needed to be fixed and addressed. But then we started to have more phone call conversations with them, and then they mentioned that a previous SEO had, I think they said, deleted a bunch of links. And then that was like, ding, 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 in my mind, like, hold up, have they done a disavow? Okay, because looking at their Google Search Console, there was no disavow file in there. There was nothing to say that there had been one submitted before. And then it turns out, after then they had spoken with their previous SEO, that this guy had built a massive disavow file, uploaded it into Google Search Console, and then basically the disavow file says to Google, these links are nothing to do with us. Please, can you remove the association with our website? But if you don't do that in the right way and you have loads of links in there that actually had a benefit to the site, all of a sudden, as I said before, you know, it's like chopping a leg off of a table, right? Things are going to go sideways, essentially. So we didn't know about that until the client had brought that up. So there can sometimes be a lot of things where you can't see what the issue is on the surface, but it's something that has been done in the past that may not have been done by you or your own team. So that's incredibly important, that you try and get the full picture of exactly what's happened, as well as, because it could be any number of different things, and that's what we then have to work through. Like the client we're on a call with today. Okay, is it this? No. Is it this? No. Is it this? No. Cool. Right. Well, let's work out exactly what it is. Process of elimination, and then we can fix the root issue.
And I think some of the issues you can only understand if you have extensive SEO experience. You can only find the actual core issue, why it's happening and how to fix it if you have your kind of experience, which is 18 years. Not anyone would just be able to see the issue looking at the website. So sometimes I do see that you're doing a lot of investigation to figure out what to actually fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially like the disavow file. It's not something that's necessarily used every day.
Yeah.
So if you've just gone through and done an SEO course, I doubt they're going to talk about the disavow file at all.
Yeah. Or if you do a quick audit somewhere, you sign up for a company or a tool, when you do a quick audit, that's not going to show up anywhere that say, hey, you've done a disavow, but this is the issue. So of course it's case by case dependent on how to resolve things and if you can even find the core issue.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's just been years and years and years and years of looking at a bunch of different websites, speaking to a bunch of different people. What's the effect? What's happened? This equals this.
Even causing the issues yourself, I can imagine that you've done. Like you probably experienced the issues yourself to kind of figure out the solutions to it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we've done all this kind of stuff to our own sites to go, okay, well, that's not the way to do it. Cool. Well, we'll add that to our strategy, and now in the future, we're not going to make that mistake again. So there has been many, many, many very costly mistakes that we've done with SEO years and years and years back, which has been fantastic because now we've learned it, and now we don't make the same mistakes again. So our success rate now is a hell of a lot higher, which is absolutely awesome, which is why I'm confident to work on other people's sites outside of our own.
And another point we've discussed before is that a lot of clients don't have like a change log. So they don't log the changes you're making, the things they update across the site, who's doing what, which makes it as well so difficult. Like suddenly they have a drop somewhere, a specific day, but they don't remember what happened that day. So it's so important if you own a website and are a business owner to keep that kind of log, because then it's so much easier to backtrack and see exactly what had that effect.
Yeah, I think just from a fundamental perspective, like especially with an e-commerce site, because there's so much that people change so often, keeping that basic change log, I literally just have it on my notes. I write the date and the time and what I've changed. It's just that easy. But it's just getting in the habit of doing that, because like I remember there was a client who we had a call with probably about 4 months ago now, and he was like, something has happened to the site, we're dropping in traffic, our conversion rate has gone to shit, our ads are now not working as well. As like, what on earth is going on? And when you have that many issues all lined up, it's then not an ad issue, it's not a traffic issue, because his traffic was the same. It's then, what have you done on the website around that period of time? And then when you start to dig in more and more and more, and then start to jog someone's memory, they're like, oh yeah, I changed all the labels on my products because I thought they needed changing. Okay, interesting. And what data did you have to go off to change all of that? Oh, well, I thought they looked too basic. Okay. And then I load up archive.org, which then essentially takes screenshots of your website at different points in time, depending on how it's crawling those pages, right? So then you're able to see, okay, I'm looking at your labels before. They were very, very obvious what each of the products were. And now you have these cool looking labels, but I have no freaking idea what on earth the product is now. Do you think that might have been the issue? Well, I don't know. Anyway, so different things like that. If he'd made a informed decision beforehand, whether that had been running like a pick food test or asking actual customers, which one do you like best, before making the decision, then that could have completely saved his business. You know, he was going the way that would have made the whole business go under at that point. So having a changelog would have been
and
very
that leads
wise.
us back as well to the beginning of the discussion about like the CFO discussion. So when you talk to a CFO, like understand the numbers, like be data driven, look at your website, what is generating traffic, what has happened over time with the SEO, has it increased, has it had an impact on our bottom line? You know, all these questions you need to answer and be data driven and factual. Don't be emotional and just be like, oh, we need to cut the costs, let's cut everything. SEO, that feels like a good investment or a bad investment. It's not about feelings, it's about facts. So have a look at your figures and actually go into the facts of things.
Yeah, and I think a really big thing as well is like understanding what the cost is. So as opposed to like looking at pure revenue, let's say SEO is doing 200K, ads were doing 500K. If you look at it on the front end, you're like, whoa, ads is doing so much better. We need to obviously keep that, right? But then what is the cost of getting that 500K? All right, well, we spent 200 grand on ads. Okay, well, we have 300K left. Oh, we spent 50 grand on creative. Okay, so now we have this portion left. And it's sizing and chunking down further and further and further. And then you're like, okay, then we had the agency cost on top of that. Oh, then we had to pay influencers as well as, or whatever the case may be. And now you're all of a sudden you're at like, oh, our margin on paid was actually significantly less than we thought when you compare it to the overall revenue. So then when you're comparing it against organic, you're like, okay, we did 200K, what's the cost? All right, well that was 7.5. Okay, what else? That's it. Oh, so our margin is this. It's freaking huge. So when you then start looking at the numbers, as you said, and then overlay the cost associated with all of that, you can then really start to see like what the actual margin and the profits are on each of the revenue, each of the traffic sources that are coming in to the store.
Excellent. So that's it for today's podcast.
Cool.
And feel free to ask any questions. You know, go into our podcast, go email us at contact@DTC SEO Agency. If you have any specific questions, you want to book a call with us, we also have a booking button on the website, so you can book a call with Thomas and go through things for your website. Anything else, Thomas, you want to bring up before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think if you have a desire to gain a lot more traffic that is high converting, that is sustainable and can grow without the cost growing, then yeah, head on over to DTC SEO Agency.com, schedule a call with myself. We'll run through you and your business and see if you're a good fit for SEO, and we can work out a path to much more profit, essentially, which is awesome. So yeah, look forward to seeing you on the call, and we'll be back next week with another podcast about SEO.
Yes, and next week we're going to go into a little bit more of historical learnings, how SEO has evolved, what website you've had before, without disclosing anything that could be confidential. And yeah, interesting to see the evolution.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've made a lot of cash. We've also lost a lot of cash. Big lessons. As with any kind of marketing, you know, as you're going forward with things, you learn a lot. You also make a lot of mistakes, but then you learn from those mistakes. So it's been an incredible journey with things. So I look forward to sharing that in the next podcast. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.